I'm Dom, and welcome to The Numbers All Go to 11. Over the next 300 years or so, I'll be ranking, reviewing and rating every album ever made. For the pilot episode, I've chosen my favourite band of all time, the Beach Boys. The Beach Boys occupy a curious nook in popular culture. They're as ubiquitous as oxygen, they had huge success, and most people know at least a few songs. But despite that, they remain one of the most misunderstood and, in my opinion, undervalued bands of all time. Misunderstood because despite their enormous success, most people still don't get the full picture of what the Beach Boys were really all about. Yes, they wrote a lot of songs about cars, surfing and girls in California, and those are great songs, but there's so much more to them than that. If you just look at the lyrics, they wrote songs about steamboats, wind chimes, rain, the solar system, foot care, transcendental meditation, falling asleep in parks, and a bunch of weird shit on Smile which nobody really understands. And it's not just restricted to the lyrics. In their time, the Beach Boys evolved just as much as their oft-cited contemporaries, the Beatles. From surf rock to teen balladry to acid-fried psychedelia to quirky stone pop to soul-infused rock to disco, synth pop and regrettably nostalgia circuit sellout music. Undervalued because despite the fact that most of the music is fantastic, most music fans haven't heard most of the albums. If you're into music, you've heard the greatest hits, Pet Sounds and some version of Smile perhaps. If you're a proper music geek, perhaps Sunflower and Surf's Up as well. But Holland, Love You, Summer Days, Summer Nights. If you're under 50, probably not. But you're lucky because you've got me and I've heard all of them. Before we begin the countdown, a couple of disclaimers and caveats. Eagle-Eye fans will notice I haven't actually included every single Beach Boys release. And there's a reason for that. No live albums. If you're gonna listen to a live album, make sure it's the 1973 Live in Concert album. Great performances from the band and the definitive version of Marcella. I also haven't included the Christmas album. I do think it's great, I really like it, but I'm going to exclude it for now and keep my powder dry for later in the year when I do my top Christmas albums. I also haven't included Beach Boys Party. It's not really a studio album, it's not really a live album, it's not very good. I'm not including it. The same goes for Stars and Stripes, the 1996 collection of country cover versions. This isn't very good. The covers are pretty lame. There's nothing really worthwhile on here. If you're going to listen to the Beach Boys, listen to the originals. Don't listen to this, listen to the originals. What else? Smile. Bit more controversial. I know this is going to divide fans somewhat, but I don't really consider it a proper album. I realise that it has been released in different formats and different forms down the years, but for me it's not really a proper album, so I'm not including it. Please don't hate me, internet. So with that out of the way, let's begin the countdown. Timed this very badly. Is this the way to Ma Gyi Zin?
Wow.
There. Almost there. Wow! Whoa! At 25, Summer in Paradise, aka the Anti-Pet Sounds. What do I have to say about this album? First of all, it's horrible. It's very, very bad. The production on this album is as synthetic as your underwear, but at least you can burn your underwear. In terms of the music, it's just pre-tooled, cheesy sax and drums and keyboards meet horrible lyrics and Mike Love rapping. It's really, 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 really bad. At 24, still cruising. Well, this is the album where they finally perfected their brand of Ronald Reagan approved soft cop rock. I don't have an awful lot to say about this album. That track Wipeout with, is it the Fat Boys, the Big Boys? That track gives me a little bit of cancer, just a teeny bit. Elsewhere you've got Kokomo. I pretty much want to stab this song. And plus there's a bunch of old Beach Boys hits on the album because, hey, why not? Who gives a shit, eh? Let's put the old stuff on the new album. Look, I mean, everybody piles in on Mike Love a little bit, and he does deserve it up to a point. But actually, I don't completely hate the guy. It's true that he was important when the Beach Boys started, and he's a great singer, and he contributed more than his fair share of songwriting duties. What I will say is that, judging by these later Beach Boys albums, he just doesn't get it. Those Beach Boys early songs were about California living, girls, cars. Superficially, they were superficial. But actually, if you listen to them, because of the brilliance of the production and the performances, they touch something deeper inside of you. When you listen to later period Beach Boys or Kokomo, it just sounds like a bunch of guys, a bunch of middle-aged men singing about their holidays. The early Beach Boys has soul power. It's evocative. The later stuff just sounds like you're on a cruise ship. Hi. At 23, the Beach Boys' self-titled album. Some fans say actually there are good songs buried on this album. It's underrated. There's good songs, but they're buried. And I agree. If by buried you mean strangled and thrown into a shallow ditch, yeah, they're definitely buried. No, I don't like this album at all. I mean, the production on this album just murders the songs, buries them. I mean, listening to this album, the experience is like being embalmed with soft cheese, then buried alive in Muzak. It sucks. At 22, LA, the Light album. The first two songs on this album are great. That's Good Timing, and then Al Jardine's Lady Linda. They're great. The rest of the album isn't. It's not awful, but far too much of the album is taken up by soppy disco ballads. At 21, That's Why God Made the Radio. I suppose this is as good as we could have hoped for in 2012 from the Beach Boys. It's okay. The title track and Isn't It Time, pretty good. It's schmaltzy and cheesy, but Daybreak Over the Ocean by Mike Love is also kind of good as well. The Private Life of Bill and Sue and Beaches of Mind are pretty rubbish though. Overall, I'd say that if you're a fan of the Beach Boys, this is just about worth checking out, but it's far from essential. God. No. At number 20, Carl and the Passions, So Tough. Definitely the worst titled album in the Beach Boys discography. It's quite good. I think this one's pretty much the dictionary definition of a transitional album. Transitioning from sun-kissed pop to mature soul-inflected rock, but not actually fully transitioning, kind of standing in the doorway, leaning against something. There are some good songs on here. Dennis Wilson does one of his damaged I'm so rugged, but I'm also damaged, but handsome and rugged and damaged. Big ballads at the end with Cuddle Up. You also get Marcella, which is a good song, but it's much better when you hear it live. As I mentioned at the beginning of the video, check out Marcella live, like Beach Boys live in concert. He came down as they go all gospel-y, but actually it's not that face palmy. It's okay. I mean, the whole album is actually just quite good. There are never really any terrible lows, nor any dizzy highs. It's just sort of at a level plane, decent Beach Boys, but not amazing. Carl and the Passions. Aha. Ow! Fucking ants! Woo! Another beach then. At number 19, Shut Down Volume 2. I've got very mixed feelings about this album because on the one hand you've got some of the Beach Boys' best material. You've got Don't Worry Baby, which is of course a classic. You've got Fun Fun Fun, The Warmth of the Sun, and you've even got deeper cuts like In the Parking Lot, which has got like a nice sort of West Side Story-ish vibe. And you've also got even Pom Pom Playgirl, which is very fluffy and throwaway, but it's also very catchy. So there is good stuff on here, but then you get to the filler. And I'm not talking about filler in the way that we traditionally think of filler, as in, well, these songs aren't quite as good, but it's more of a subjective thing. Some people might like these, but generally they're considered to be... No. I mean, as in, oh no, this album's too short. It's not quite an album because it's too short, so we need to stick a bunch of stuff there. It doesn't even have to be music, just some things on there to make it an album so we can label it an LP. Halfway through, you get this awful... What is it called? Cassius Love versus Sonny Wilson, I believe it's called. Which is just 2 minutes of the Beach Boys making lame jokes, dicking around, being idiots. And I guarantee anyone else who has ever lived listening to this is just sitting there thinking, excuse me, can we get back to the album, please? What happened to all those lovely songs you were playing just a second ago? This is horrible, and it is horrible. And you get that, and it's not interesting, it's not insightful, it's definitely not funny, and it goes on for what feels like forever, and then it's over, and then it's back to the album. But then you've got also other tracks which are filler, which are like Only Fools Fall in Love, which is, yeah, it's a really poor cover. And then right at the end you've got Denny's Drums, which is just 2 minutes of Dennis Wilson farting around on the drums, and then that ends and it's the end of the album. So, as I said, it's a really mixed bag. There are some terrific songs on here, some really strong material. But then you get stuff which is just pure filler. At number 18, Surfin USA. The Beach Boys often get pegged as a surf rock band, but in reality, they only wrote surf songs for the first 18 months, not even 2 years of their career. With that said, Surfin USA is a quintessential surf rock album. There's lots of great songs on here. Of course, Surfin USA, the title track, a classic. Perhaps they homage Chuck Berry a little bit too much without his permission. But still, it's a great song. Then you've got The Lonely Sea, which, for my money, is up there with the all-time great non-hit Beach Boys tracks. Lovely haunting melody, great harmonies, really good lyrics. It's just a great song. If I do have a complaint, I think that there's slightly too many instrumentals, 5 to be exact, which is 3 too many. The not-so-secret weapon of the Beach Boys was those beautiful harmonies, the vocals. So when you take the vocals out, it's a bit like He-Man without his sword. He's still great, he's still He-Man, it's all good, but he's better with the sword.
Oh my god, that's scary even to eat.
At number 17, 15 Big Ones. A lot of people love to hate on this album, but it's really not that bad. In fact, it's pretty decent. The band were at something of a crossroads when this was released. A couple of years prior to this, they'd released the Endless Summer compilation, which is essentially their first greatest hits. And they weren't sure what to do. Should they come back with covers or new material? In the end, a compromise was struck, and so you have an album which is 50% covers, 50% new material. In terms of the covers, I actually think most of them work quite well. The Palisades Park cover, that's good. The Dennis Wilson fronted In the Still of the Night, I really love this actually. To be honest, I could listen to Dennis Wilson sing his bank statements to me and I'd still go gooey at the knees. Not so good is the Mike Love fronted Rock and Roll Music. Yeah, Chuck Berry definitely has the upper hand on that one. And in terms of the originals, mostly pretty good. I really like the Pass the Mic element in Hatophonia, which is a nice quirky little song. And then you've got It's Okay. While, okay, the subject matter in this song isn't deep, but it's a good pop song. And the same for Al Jardine's Susie Cincinnati. So overall, it's not perfect, but not even half as bad as the internet would have you believe. Here, next to the pagoda. At number 16, Keepin' the Summer Alive. Another album that everybody thinks is pants, but actually it's not as pants as you think. In fact, it's not pants at all. It's pretty good. Don't believe everything you read on the internet, although admittedly I am coming to you from the internet. This is actually, I think, a very underrated Beach Boys album. It is bookended by its worst tracks. The title track, the first track, I really don't like this song very much. I think the lyrics are lame, and those boing, 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 boing harmonies, they just don't do it for me at all. The final track, you've got Endless Harmony, a Bruce Johnson track. It starts out well enough with these lovely atmospheric keys and sort of lovely sort of washed out production and nice vocal work from Johnson. But then, towards the end of the song, Carl comes in with this, God bless America, it's a land where we tour. And, well, to be honest, I mean, on paper, I have no problem with people singing about how much they love their country. And I'm sure the Beach Boys are being sincere. But trust me, when you listen to it on this song, it's cringe-ageddon. Bad stuff out the way, there's lots of good songs on here. You've got the sort of country-ish Darlin' with a great vocal performance from Carl, really nice melody. You've also got Santa Ana Winds, which is a Mike Love track. Again, a kind of country-ish vibe, environmental theme, nice acoustic guitars, and it feels longer than its 3.5 minutes, but in a good way. It feels epic, even though it's not. Best of all, though, is Going On, which is possibly the last truly great Beach Boys track. Really great chorus, good lyrics, really great vocal performance from Carl. It's a shame they have to go in at the end and ruin it with a saxophone solo. To be honest, I hate the saxophone. I think it rarely does any song any good. Sue, does Kenny G play the saxophone?
No.
No?
No.
I think he does.
No.
No?
No.
I think he does.
Oh, okay.
Okay, stop the video.